MLS password? Send it to my WhatsApp. All right, let's do this. All right, guys, what's up? I think we are live now, right? So yeah, let's do this. All right, so our topic today is how to build a seven-figure REI business. I want to give you guys a little bit of context, how we even got to this point. So I got started in the business in 2000, did about 11 and a half years in corporate America. And when the market crashed, Lehman Brothers, I think, was the first domino to fall. And then after that, all these banks defaulted after that. We used to buy properties that were in pre-foreclosure, sell them. And then in 2012, that evolved into doing rehab fix and flips to the point where, started raising capital to really scale that. And we built it up to an operation that was doing anywhere between 35 to 40 flips at any given time across 3 states. So we're in Maryland, New Jersey, and Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, and then pretty much most of the counties of New Jersey, from Burlington up to Passaic. And so that went phenomenally well. And in 2016, end of 2016, my brother and I, we kind of joined forces. He had a very formidable operation that he was running himself. And so we became Apex Capital Group and decided to bring everything together. We had 23 employees at the time. There was a lot of redundancies in roles and things like that. So we started to cut back. And I think now, especially with COVID, one of the things that we've seen is cutting the fat in the business. So of course you have the revenue side and you have your expenses side. And when you go to school for your MBA, one of the first equations that they throw up on the board, which I think should really be taught in undergrad or even high school, and running a business, there's revenues, there's expenses, and what's left over is your profit, right? And you have the ability to impact both revenues by getting more deals, closing more sales, and then of course your expenses, right? All of the software that you're running, all of the employees, the overhead, all of those things. Can you do those in a better way? Does all the admin work need to get done here in the United States? Can you outsource a lot of that to overseas through Upwork.com using virtual assistants and so on and so forth? And so through that sort of transition, at the end of 2019, one of the things that we had seen was, as you guys probably know, in August, the yield curve had inverted, right? And the yield curve has predicted the last 7 recessions. And so that gave us some concern as far as doing rehabs. And rehab was probably 80% of our business, right? One of the things that we used to do is, and we still do, is be a turnkey provider for rental properties. And what that really means is you go into rental neighborhoods, areas that are, maybe sub 100K properties. So you can scout what cities or townships offer that. And we dove headfirst into those type of neighborhoods, buying up properties, negotiating them deep, and then selling them, or rather wholesaling them to high net worth individuals. So we would make contact with doctors and corporate professionals and attorneys and engineers and software IT folks and people that had good, really high income, 6-figure jobs and so on and so forth. And this was kind of the epiphany that we had in 2016 was, normally you're taught when you're going to wholesale a property, you put it under contract and then sell it to a rehabber, right? Or a landlord. And more often the way that it's taught is, a landlord that's already buying in that area. The light bulb that went off back in 2016 was, what if we sold it to everybody else that wants to be a part of real estate, but they aren't, right? And so we started doing webinars and marketing presentations at restaurants and so on and so forth to really drum up interest in people that wanted to invest in real estate, but they wanted an infrastructure that was behind it that would go out and find the properties, renovate the properties for them, get it leased up, and then do the property management, right? So this was kind of a need that we saw in the marketplace, and we jumped right in, and we did about 350 properties in the last 4 years this way, about 250 of them in New Jersey, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 115 in Toledo, Ohio. And so that, that became our business. We were turnkey rental property provider, and revenues were out the roof. We had a ton of expenses, so we had a lot of employees and overhead and things like that on board. And what we've done since then, as I was telling you guys, in 2019, we started to make a change and say that we want to rehab less, right? Because yeah, it's somewhat scalable, but it has a ceiling, right? And it comes with a lot of headache. It comes with a lot of unknowns. It comes with, construction overages and having these awkward conversations with investors of funding the property more so that we can complete the construction and so on. And so we didn't want to do that anymore. And also dealing with even passive investors almost feels like you have a boss, right? And so we just kind of wanted to change our model, and we saw that the writing was on the wall. And so in January of 2020, I run a meetup called New Jersey Real Estate Alliance. It's about 1,700 members, and we actually did a panel: wholesalers versus rehabbers versus landlords. So wholesaling a property, or fix and flipping, or hold on to it, right? Buy and hold. And what was going to be the main strategy for some of the heavy hitters in New Jersey going forward? And one of the things that we saw from that discussion was, for sure, wholesaling seemed like the way to go. And all the generation of cash that you're doing from your wholesaling business should go right back into landlording and getting that passive income going. Because even wholesaling can be like a job, right? It's like being in the S category in the cash flow quadrant, ESBI. So, wholesaling became like almost like a job. I'm just gonna type in, see where you guys come from. Yes, wholesaling can feel like a job also, and it's you're as good as your last deal. Right now, certainly, you can automate a lot of those processes, and that's what I'm going to talk about, and that's going to be the crux of my presentation here. But then in March, I repeated this same panel discussion once the pandemic lockdown had happened, and it was abundantly clear. All the rehabbers were saying that cash is tight. Not a lot of people are putting money on the streets right now. People are holding back because of all the uncertainty with coronavirus. And so most of the rehabbers also were looking at either wholesaling or being landlords, right? So today I want to focus on two things. If you're going to build and automate a wholesaling business, and you can quickly get to a 7-figure business, but let's just talk about a 6-figure business in terms of wholesaling, right? Just to make it very attainable and achievable, and doing about 1 to 2 deals a month, right? So I'm sharing my screen here, and I'm going to go to ListSource. This is listsource.com. This is a great place to build a list. And what we're going to look for is motivated sellers. Now, on the other end, we're going to use the MLS, either Bright MLS or GS MLS, depending on whatever your geography is, to find cash buyers. Okay, and what Taylor does, obviously, you guys know, is you're bringing seller and buyer together in a way where you are selling the equitable interest in your property. And there's different methods of doing that. Either you can assign your equitable interest through an assignment contract, or you can double close on the property where you actually take legal title to the property and then you resell the property within a matter of hours or even a couple of days. Okay, so let's jump right into this presentation. I think we have about another 20 minutes or so, and we'll kind of cut it in half, finding cash buyers and finding properties. So the method that we use, right, it's called list stacking. And what that means is you take multiple motivation pain points and you put them together. So I'll actually show you guys a deal that we did. If you go on Zillow.com, and sorry, let me actually look at 76 Woolsey. 76 Woolsey. Okay, now this deal was a it was a tax lien and it was vacant. Okay, so those were the two pain points that we stacked on this particular deal. Now, what we ended up doing was we took this deal down and we actually, did the renovations on this property and then sold it. So here you see, if you look at the history here, coming down here. Here. So you could see that, last year we purchased this deal around this time at $165,000. Now, being that it's a condo, it was a townhouse, and we love doing townhouses and condos because the renovation is a lot more predictable. They tend to be newer properties, not more than 30, 40 years old. So there's not a whole lot of crazy unknown things that are going on there, right? And more often not, the HOA fees, the homeowner association fees, are taking care of all the exterior components of the property, right? The roof and things like that. So property had a great roof, good windows, all of that already going in. The inside was just completely dated. And so that's very easy to come up with your renovation costs. We did some laminate and hardwood flooring here. I actually helped oversee and manage this project. So, we used the same paint color throughout and busted up the old fireplace and just kind of did this nice little stonework all the way to the ceiling and so on and so forth. And then, the cabinets were already there. And, we redid the bathrooms. And they just kind of painted up the entire place, right? So here's a brand new bathroom, so on. And so we purchased for 165. We dumped about 25,000 into it, so we're all in for 190. And then right about a month and a half later, right, a month and 2 weeks later, we listed it for sale. So that's one of the big advantages of being in and out of the property very quickly. Especially in this coronavirus environment where you don't want to go into a long project and be married to the project for a long time. We put it up for $350 and we sold it for the same price, $350. It went for asking price. Okay. Now it looks like this is the first time I've actually visited this. Since then, these folks lived here about half a year. And they are now reselling the property for $355, and they've got their furniture and all of that in there. They might be moving. Now, this is a 55 and up community. So we actually purchased this property under my mom's name. She happens to be over 55. And what was great about a 55 and up community, and here's another pro tip, is that in those communities, you're usually going to get a cash buyer, right? It's usually somebody that's downsizing, they're empty nesters or what have you, and they've just sold their primary residence, which was probably paid off, and it was probably a $500,000 or up house, and now they are downgrading. And Pennington's a really nice area, so they're looking for like an active community and so on and so forth. So this is what our cash buyer was. This one actually happened to be, there was a mortgage on this property, but they brought 50% down payment to the property. And this actually, outdid all of the comps. There was nothing that had sold for $350,000 in this entire development. But because of the level of renovations and so on and so forth, the appraiser did come back at 350, so we had no issues with the appraisal, and so we kind of pushed the envelope on the pricing in this neighborhood. So yeah, it's a six-figure deal. This is right here in New Jersey. They can still be done. And again, how did we put this together? Number one, we looked up tax liens in the area, okay, and we looked up vacant properties using this website, list source. Okay, and I'll quickly run you guys through this website. And then when we put it on the market, one thing with this community is that everybody kind of knows each other. So we started getting the word out as the renovations were going on, and they actually started spreading the word. One of the realtors caught wind of it. As soon as we put the property on the market, he walked in with his client, and we had several offers that were on this property, and these folks pulled the trigger pretty quickly. So that's one way to do it, is doing a quick fix and flip, right? And we love those because you could be in and out. It almost feels like a wholesale, even though there's some renovation component that's involved with it. Okay, let's actually go through this. So let's start with county. Okay, so we're going to select New Jersey, and what we're going to do is we're going to look for some motivated sellers, right? So I'm going to select, we're heavy in Burlington, so I'm going to add Burlington. We do a lot of Mercer. Okay, and let me just throw in a couple of other counties. Of course, the heart of New Jersey being Somerset, Middlesex, Union, and Essex. So I'll throw those in as well. Union and Essex, right? So we've got our geography there. Okay, now we're going to come over to property criteria. And what I'm going to look for is equity percentage. So I want these folks to be, I want to put unknown equity. This is one that gets often missed. A lot of people don't know about that. And then anything from 51 up to 100, we're going to add that in there. So we could actually do, let me remove this and put 51 to 100 and add. Okay. So these are folks that have equity in their houses, or they've paid down the mortgage significantly, or some of these properties could be free and clear as well. Okay. And you see this, it's a massive list right now, 410,000 properties that are coming up. Okay. The other thing that we're going to do with property is we're going to go to property type, and we're going to do townhouses. So add that in. Now that reduces your list significantly to 1,767. We'll add in duplex, some triplexes, and see the more criteria that I add and the more that I expand the parameters, the more that I have to work with. So the list continues to, and then single family residential, which will probably bump this up huge. Okay, so that became 315,000, right? So we can go with multifamily and townhouses, right? How about that? So, and condominiums, let's do condos in there too. Okay, that jumps up to 47,000. So, and that's going to get very expensive in terms of buying a list. So let's go with those. And then we can come over here to options. I want absentee owned, okay, and out of state. We like out of state. You could click in state as well, but if you go out of state, the level of motivation increases further. No preference as far as trustee owned properties. As far as corporate owned properties, exclude those. That'll usually be, bank owned properties and so on. And then we want both the mailing and the property address, and there's a reason for that. Okay, because if it is absentee owned, it could potentially be vacant as well. And if it's vacant, we don't want any of our marketing going to the property address. We want it going to the mailing. Now, here's what I'm going to do. What I'm doing is I'm buying data, right? And what's great in this coronavirus environment is that you can literally do this business right from your laptop, right? You buy the data. Here's the process. You buy the data, you skip trace that data, then you contact the owners using the skip tracing information that you received through 3 ways: either text message blast, direct mail, or cold calling. These 3 ways, right? The cheapest will probably be SMS blast. If it's a smaller list, you can cold call yourself. I don't recommend that. If you want to build a big business, particularly a 7-figure business, you'll want to hire a cold caller. So one of the things that we'll do is we'll go on Upwork.com, and you'll notice that people don't want to be cold callers. So we look for, customer support representative or customer service representative, and we look for people that have done jobs like that. And when we hire them in, then we train them on cold calling. But we never call it cold calling. It has somewhat of a negative connotation to it. Nobody likes to cold call, even in third world countries, believe it or not. So we just call it customer service representative. And you hire those folks anywhere from $3 to like $5 or $6 per hour, and you have them banging out all of your cold calls. Those the ones that qualify as leads then go to your acquisition manager. If you have an acquisitions manager, we have one. Now, one of the things that we did in terms of reducing overhead is everybody that works at the company is a 1099 independent contractor, so we don't carry any overhead as far as salaries. Our overhead used to be over 50K a month with salaries and rent and everything, but now we've whittled that down less than $10,000 a month, right? So one wholesale deal really covers our expenses, and then everything on top of that is cream. So now, that being said, we're coming back to list source here. We're going to now got 752. I can live with that. We're going to save this criteria for later, and then you can purchase the list, right? You'll create an account, and the leads. We have a kind of a master account, so we get these at 3 cents a piece. But generally, I think they go for like 10 or 15 cents. So a list of about 700 will probably run you. It'll be cheap. It's not going to be much. Let me do the math for you guys real quick. 700 properties times 0.15, so $100 for the leads. Now, what you can do is, once that data comes in, you're going to run it through REI. Skip Trace is a good website to use. There's numerous skip tracing websites that are out there that allow you to do batch skip tracing. This happens to be a very good one. This is one that we use. And once you get the skip tracing data back, the skip tracing data is going to generally have an email for the owner, right? It's going to have multiple cell phone numbers or potential cell phone numbers. And you're going to take that, you're going to organize that data. It's all going to come in a Excel spreadsheet, okay? And we use a software called dropcowboy.com to then send out text messages to all of these people. And we test different texts, but one of the ones that we'll ask is, hey, crazy question, have you ever thought about selling your property, right? And when they get that, if that message is being received by a motivated seller, somebody that is in distress, they're getting code violation notices in their house, they're living out of state, they're still paying taxes on this property that's not performing, that's somebody that's going to be motivated. And that was my whole point in terms of list stacking, is instead of like everybody else looking for vacant absentee, right? You want to do vacant absentee tax lien with code violations, something like that. You might want to go to your local township and fill out an OPRA request, right? An Open Public Records Act allows you to request this sort of public information. I need all of the fire damaged properties in the city, right? And they'll within 7 business days, they have to produce a list of all the properties that they maintain. If they actually maintain that data, they'll produce that for you. And now what you could do is look at the addresses on all of these lists that are redundant, right? Because now if I have one motivation point being a vacant property, and then I have a second motivation point that the person's out of state, so now they feel like they're less in control because the property's in another state, and that it's got code violations, and I can look up code violations also through an OPRA request, and that it's a fire damaged property. All of these things, the person now wants to sell, right? And we have a fire damaged property that we're doing right now in Piscataway that we have under contract, and now we have it under contract with a cash buyer, right? So and it came through this exact same method, and that's happening right now, right? We literally just got the contract signed last week, and this past week that passed, and the earnest money deposit was wired over, and we're on our way to closing that property out. But it was fire damaged, it was vacant. The seller actually happened to be in state, and so we were able to do that deal. So list stacking, finding multiple motivation points, and then targeting, instead of taking like this shotgun approach, you're more like a sniper, right? And you're laser focused on motivated sellers. Now, once I get these sellers on the phone and I go through my sales process and make my offer and so on, right, I can have them do some of the work for me. I can have them go to the property and send pictures back, get an idea of the level of renovation it needs, or go there physically myself with my renovation estimate sheet and come up with the amount of renovations that the property needs, and then make a sensible offer. You're going to use the Mayo formula and other sort of metrics to figure out what's the best offer that you can make to optimize and maximize your wholesale fee. Once the seller agrees on that, what we do is then we turn it around and we go on the MLS. Let me see if I got the MLS password for a sec here. Okay. Okay, so I'm logging into GSMLS, right? Okay, password is wrong there. It's constantly getting changed. I'll go into this one. Okay, this is Bright MLS, so this is South Jersey. This used to be called Trend MLS. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna search for residential sale. Okay. And let's put in, I'll put in, for example, Trenton, New Jersey. Okay, Trenton, New Jersey comes up here. Now what we're doing is we're looking for cash buyers. And I'm going to look at properties that have sold. And obviously these were sold by agents because they were listed in the last 12 months, 365 days in a year. There's 828 properties that sold in the city of Trenton total, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to filter this down to just my cash buyers, okay? And so if I do this correctly, what I have to do is, where's the advanced? A little bit rusty on this because we have people in the office doing this stuff. But what I'll do is in the interest of time, what you're going to look up is there's going to be a setting that shows you how to look up transactions that happened in cash, right? So when the property was sold, the buyer brought cash to the table, and that'll allow you to come up with something like this. Cash buyers. We got too many things open here. Let me just shut some of this stuff down. Okay, so this is Burlington, New Jersey. Okay, and you can see these are various MLS agents that sold properties, and these are notes from our cold caller that works on the disposition side of the business. And so, what you can pull up really is all the cash deals that happened in the city of Burlington, for example, here, and you can see the address that was sold, right? You can see the agent and the agent's phone number, their email, and so on and so forth. And then what we do is we take these emails and we use something called GMAS. GMAS is really cool, gmas.co. What GMAS allows you to do is it's an extension right in your Gmail account, and it allows you to do a mail merge with a spreadsheet like this. And then by using fields, I can personalize that email, and I can send, for up to 2,000 emails a day. I can send all of these emails saying, "Hi, Pamela. I saw that you sold a property at 38 Manor to a cash buyer. I've got a great wholesale deal that's available." And then what we tell our agents is, if your client that purchased this property is still looking for other properties to add to their portfolio or for their next project, for their next fix and flip project, I can give you the lockbox code to go check out this property on behalf of your client. And what's good is working through agents rather than other wholesalers or trying to go direct to the end buyer. Agents are, they have fiduciary responsibilities, right? So they're not going to try to circumvent you. They're going to want to build a long relationship and do more deals with you. And they are a gateway to a lot of cash buyers, right? Because there's some agents that just only work with cash buyer investors. And so, you get a couple of those folks in your Rolodex, then you're really cooking, because then, you've got people that are buying, you get their criteria. And then on the other side, what we call reverse wholesaling is then you just go shopping in those areas and you put your marketing and your your focus on those markets to find properties there. So we tell the agent, look, my price is 85,000. You are free to add your own commission on top. So whether you want to do 5% of that, it'll be on top of the 85,000, or you want to do a flat fee, 5,000, 10,000, you charge your client whatever you want to charge, so as long as they're okay paying it, and then let's do the deal. And so that's how we work with our agents, right? You get right from the MLS, you scrape the data, and you get it onto a spreadsheet by utilizing the services of a virtual assistant that's working for like $3 or $4 an hour, and then using GMAS, you send out these individualized, customized emails, and then what also GMAS allows you to do is it lets you, it has an auto sequence, follow-up sequence. So you can follow up with those agents consistently just from that first email that you send. So you can set up your follow-up emails right after that, right? So one of the next email that we'll send out is just making sure you saw this, ... And when it shows up in their inbox, the way that GMAS does it, it shows up as like a continuation of that same email. So it'll be like the second email in that email thread. And then when they click on it and it opens up the previous email, it's all together instead of showing up in the inbox as a brand new email. And people are like, just making, I saw what? Right? So it shows up as like a continuation of the email, which is how people are used to looking at email anyway. So that's what's great about GMAS. So that's a great one that you guys should have. So that's really it. You're going to take your data that you're going to buy, you're going to skip trace it, you're going to get in contact with the seller, you're going to put that property into contract, and then you're going to go to the other side and you're going to find agents that are selling deals to cash buyers. And you're going to get in contact with them through email, and you can also get in contact with them through text message, because when you look up their profile on the MLS, it's going to have, more often than not, it's going to have their mobile phone number as well. And you can blast out the property to all of these agents that have probably numerous investors that they're working with, right? So that's how we've been, succeeding in this, especially in this new COVID world. And everything that I showed you guys right now was all done from my computer, right? So I didn't have to get up and go out and go anywhere. Now, of course, the way that we've built it out is that we have folks on the acquisition side, we have a lead manager, and then on the disposition side, we have a team as well. So both teams work in tandem. As acquisitions puts properties under contract, they send it over to our disposition side, and then those guys are working to sell the deal. And the way that we compensate these folks is very simple. Our acquisition folks get 10% of the deal, disposition also gets 10% of the deal, and then us as the owners, we take home the rest. And this is very scalable, right? Because all I have to do now is buy more data, market more to that data, and then send those properties out to these same agents that are hungry to do deals with you because they have cash buyers and investors that are looking for deals. So that about does it for my presentation, and I would be more than happy to answer any of your guys' questions. So let's see if there's any questions here. Let's click out of some of this. Oh, this is Trello, another thing. So this is how we keep ourselves organized. Nothing crazy as far as CRM system. We might be switching over to something else very, very soon. But as of now, we use Trello. So this is how we, from whether it's driving for dollars or whatever the leads are, all the way across. And then we follow up with these folks. So, that's how you can keep all your leads organized. All right, guys. So I think that is my time for today. Let me just unshare my screen, and I just want to confirm if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you right now. Okay, so we are overtime. Thank you guys for joining, and I wish you all the best of luck. If you want to get in touch with me, send me a text message, 732-800-1955. We also teach this stuff on a regular basis. And we also have an online curriculum that we can walk you through in a WhatsApp group chat community where all of the folks that we work with, we're all part of one investor community. So if you're interested in any of that, shoot me a text, 732-800-1955, and I'll put that in here as well. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. Stay blessed, and so long.